Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Unit Lost. I am Josh, and I'm here bringing you more World Cup action, probably the most anticipated game in all of the World Cup group stages. Perhaps not my own, that's probably going to be UK against France, but I admit I have a slight amount of bias towards that one. But if you're talking about top-tier talent going up against one another, you could do worse than picking out USA versus Canada. And so the US pick Rialto, and this is an interesting choice. It's not something that we've really talked about before in Pro Overanalyzed either, and it's because it's one of the most divisive maps probably in the entire scene. It's currently a very defensively favored map, of course, on ladder, and we see that kind of reflected as well in the pro level scene. We're going to see two very interesting approaches here on the defense as well. Canada going to be starting out with a comp that's going to favor the more open space. So you can see here, the Rialto starts with this very narrow space, right? You've got this very narrow corner that you end up going through, this high ground that you can occupy, and then it moves out to this big open courtyard, this very large open space that you then have to fight through. So what gets you past that first corner isn't necessarily the same team comp that you're going to want to have when you start getting to that big open second part of the map, or at least the first point at the very least. Okay. USA going to be opening up with something kind of interesting though, so we're going to pause it as per usual once the gates open, just so we can take a look at these two team comps and think about what they want to achieve. So Canada going to be very much playing in that big open space. They have sort of these four pieces that are very agile or very long range. Crimzo and Barney can play from the opposite side of the map effectively, and Note and XQC can bounce around to wherever they need to be. Speaking of bouncing around to where he needs to be, Shawfort can continue rocking that Sombra and play wherever he kind of wants to play. He's going to try and get to the enemy backline, hack a couple of targets, build up an EMP nice and fast, and have a nice decisive win. Meanwhile, Agilities on the Brig is honestly, I think, a very interesting choice, but works out quite nicely because, hey, USA are running a Tracer, and if they're running a Tracer, you probably want to have a Brig, so it works out quite nicely for Canada. But keep an eye on Agilities. I'll point him out when possible, because he will be playing extremely defensively, way more passive than you would ever expect. The USA, on the other hand, will be playing this very agile, sort of aggressive dive comp is what I want to say. Primarily built around this pharmacy combo. It's always good to see hydration on the far. It's sort of where he made his name for himself originally, so it does warm my heart slightly to see him back on it. Of course, Space rocking the Diva, Muma on the Winston that he's so well known for, Sinatra on the Tracer as well, sort of dipped out of favor, but it's not a bad Tracer map. There's a lot of pathways to go through here, and because also I like this pick just because Crimzo was really heavily favoring the Zenyatta throughout this group stage, so having the Tracer help annihilate the Zen isn't actually too bad of an option. It's a nice and vulnerable target for the Tracer to help pick it off time and time again. Raucous, of course, staying on that Ana. So, as we roll it out, we're going to see that Canada is just going to occupy, just scatter a little bit. They want to see what the enemy team is running. A very, very important thing to do in these pro-level games is spot out what the enemy team is actually doing. With Sombra, you have that perfect information, but the Diva also gets a good look too as they exit spawn. Otherwise, hydration, all he has to really respect here is Crimzo and Banny on the floor, so as long as he doesn't get shot down too much by the Ana, the Mercy's always going to be there to pick him back up as he tries to fire a few rockets downrange. But you can see that big open space causing some issues for these rockets to land. He's only on 12% of his ultimate charge at the moment because he's having a tough time just finding the targets to actually hit. They're all quite long distance away, and to hit them, he has to fly out into this big open space, and you can see that he takes a lot of damage when doing it. Also, as a result, then the US have to sort of cross this big open space, so it's very, very easy to see what they do. They do luckily manage to get a good decisive early kill onto XQC, but Canada quite wisely, honestly, just pull back a little bit, give them that space, because they know that they only really have to contest to this final corner. Good hack on Sinatra, ends up sort of landing him right in front of Agilities, who's in, frankly, a suicidal place, but it's a really, really nice kill to have. Tracer is such a huge source of damage that trading the Tracer for the Brig is pretty much worthwhile, honestly. You have the Brig there to beat the Tracer. Once the Tracer's gone, you don't really need it anymore. Good job by Barney, just building up the nano boost nice and quickly, leaves XQC an easy cleanup job as he just goes in, finds targets, and takes them out one by one. Agilities has swapped himself up though, will move on to the Genji, just gives them another potent combo, realizing perhaps that maybe he wasn't getting enough done on that Brigitte, maybe they want more options, but this does give Canada a really nice team comp. So what Canada can do now is they have two very decisive ultimates, or rather ultimate combos. They have the EMP, and Shawfort right now is actually playing in a very passive style. Canada understands, you can see he's right there, they understand that USA have to dive onto them. They have to dive in to try and get something done. And so Shawfort's just waiting for it, right? They're just going to wait for it and then try and get the tanks and then get the counter dive. It's literally that simple. So if he manages to catch Muma or he catches Space, it'll be a really big deal. There you can see he goes in, he's got a Discord orb on him, he's hacked, Diva Bomb also spaces people out, and as a result, he just goes down instantly, just falls like paper. It's insane how fast he dies. And Canada continuing with a nice, smart hold at the moment. XQC gonna just hunt down a couple more targets. It's just clean up crew duty at the moment. But now what's really nice for Canada, as XQC just gives him a bit of the old tactical crouching or a little bit of punching as well on the bodies. There's been a bit of spicy bants throughout this entire series. I don't mind it. I quite like it, especially between two teams that are relatively even. But yeah, I kind of like seeing that. Anyway, Canada have two very powerful combos. They now have the Nano Blade as well available to them, so after the EMP, now next fight, they can just go in with Nano Blade. Hydration has to go around the houses here. You notice that, again, that problem, the big open space causes issues, but the big thing here is he doesn't have Moth with him. The Mercy isn't actually with him, so he's vulnerable to stuff like this Diva just surging up to him. He has to back away, has to find a health pack, has to play a little bit careful. You see the Genji go in, Nano Blade comes out, he manages to find both supports in the back line, cuts them down surgically, and now it's just going to be a simple matter of cleanup as there's no more healing available, and they have the Transcendence as well, just to keep things that little bit safer. Moon was being disruptive in the backline, but as Canada do not take more losses and as the respawn distance is pretty near, well, Canada can manage to reinforce while people start getting back into position. Hydration with a bit of a bold ultimate there just gets all scooped up and nommed down by Note. No problem for him, and as a result, USA end up losing out on this fight. Really big deal there, I think, was just the separation of Moth from Hydration, but now they've changed up their tactics, and with only 30 seconds left, they've really got to hope that something goes in their favor. Huge bomb, linked up with a huge sleep dart as well. We'll get to see a replay of that one, but this is actually a really, really big deal. Space lands a bomb that takes out basically both tanks here. Note also ends up getting hacked here at the last possible second, so now both tanks are gone for Canada. As a result, their presence on the point is completely nil. Like, without their tanks, without XQC and Note, there's nothing on Canada that can really survive standing on the point here. The Genji can sort of buy a little bit of time, but with Sombra there, he'll go down very quickly. Zen can't do it, Sombra can't do it, Ana can't do it, so it's really going to be quite easy for USA just to sort of tip the scales. Unfortunately, XQC gets pushed into a corner there, shoved away from his Ana, shoved away from any healing that could come to him, and he just goes down nice and quickly. Of course, we did see a second there, Raucous on the Soldier, he just gets that out just to get back from spawn a little bit quickly, but this sleep dart really did influence a lot, really did change a lot here. Beautiful shot, catches XQC. If he survived, he could stall this point for a long time, especially with that ally healing. It's a really, really big deal that he died there. Okay, we've got a couple of change-ups now coming from Canada. They picked up the Doomfist instead of the Genji. Doomfist with a little bit more individual killing power is how I'll phrase it. He can sort of go in, get a kill, and bounce out a lot more reliably than Genji can these days. Similar jobs, but Genji with a little bit more power on the ultimate. Does overextend a bit though, gets caught out on his own. Note not quite there to peel for him, or maybe ran out of defense matrix. As a result, kills coming through thick and fast for the US as they continue piling on the pressure. Muma with a standout performance with some glorious boops. His primal rages have been impeccable, ladies and gentlemen, throughout this entire series, and if you are a Winston player and you always doubt, oh, what good is primal rage anyway, I really recommend going and watch this series. Go and watch the King's Row map especially, because Muma pulls out some incredible things with that primal rage ultimate. Okay, Hydration getting set up now, and again, this is the USA being crystal clear on what their plan is, what their combo is for the next fight. They know exactly what they want to do, and as a result, they managed to get it done. They set up the combo with the Diva Bomb and EMP. Of course, movement abilities, barriers, stuff like that, so important in helping sort of survive those bombs. As a result, well, people go down. But Canada's tank line do a really good job here. They managed to stall up the point, managed to stall out the payload long enough. Hack doesn't quite go through onto the Diva, instead it goes onto the Winston, or might not even have succeeded on the Winston there, but the result is the same regardless. The tanks survive long enough to stall long enough that these defensive respawns come back. Canada swing in and manage to last that little bit longer on the payload right at the end of second, which is kind of where you want to end up regardless. It's the longest distance from the enemy spawn after all. So now we've got a big fight coming up. It's so big, I'm going to pause it right here because I want to sink my teeth into this battle. Okay, first thing we're going to talk about is what is Canada's objective. Canada actually have a lot of resources here. They've been tracking what the USA have been doing, no doubt, and they've probably realized, hey, Moth hasn't used his ultimate in a while, so they need to be worried about that sound barrier. Who is going to be worried about that sound barrier? Surefour is going to be worried about that sound barrier. So Surefour needs to try and get the hack onto Moth. As a result, he is going to spend a lot of this coming fight looking for Moth, trying to find Moth's position to make sure the EMP hits Moth and as many other targets as possible. The other big factor in this fight is that Bunny does have his ultimate available to him in a couple of seconds, so they will have kind of a potent combo with the nano boosted Winston, or if they're feeling really spicy, they could nano boost the Doomfist. USA, meanwhile, really don't have that many options. They're going to have an EMP probably come online during the fight, but other than that, they don't have much to actually play around with here. Things need to go perfectly for them, and the big thing for the USA here is just to not die early and try and get some opportunistic kills. A good hack out of hydration will determine a lot here if he can get the setup. So Canada need to make sure that no one gets hacked and caught out of position. Let's see how it plays out. So you can see hydration's gone round to the right. He's on the boats there, just sort of looking for the opportunity, and manages to actually find it. Agilities bounces out into the open, gets hacked, and gets picked off. This means that one of the DPS is now down for Canada, and the other DPS, Shawfall, is just running around. He's looking for Moth, manages to find a bunch of people, but the only damage being done at the moment is the nano boosted Winston. And sure, nano boosted Winston can do kind of a lot of damage, but with an Ana's healing, they can last still a very, very long time. As a result, the nano boosted Winston can't kill enough before the sound barrier comes back online, before the hack wears off, and as a result, Moth comes back in, sound barriers, and Canada end up losing a fight that they honestly had ultimate advantage on. They lost that fight, in my mind, purely because I think they just overemphasized the wrong ultimates, and USA were a little bit more decisive, just a little bit more opportunistic. Hydration with a very good early hack onto agilities sets him up for a nice easy kill, and as a result, the fight turns completely because there's not enough damage. Again, a hack on agilities, gets caught out, cornered. There's nothing this man can do. He's completely helpless. He's a babe. He's a poor, poor child. XQC, Primal Rages, for some reason, despite being spawn camped, feeds a little bit more ultimate to Sinatra and helps, I think, Raucus as well get his ultimate up and running. So good guy XQC helping out the USA there. It's nice to see. And even they get a transcendence out of this. This is staggering to me, the fact that they trounced at this very moment. There was a nano boosted Winston sent in, right? But you will trade the nano boost for the transcendence every single day of the week. Nano boost builds a lot quicker, it's a lot less influential. Losing that transcendence is a huge deal. USA bounce out because now the respawn's starting to catch up with them a little bit, so they will start to back off the entire distance. Amazingly, Moth survives there despite being down on like 2 hit points, and as a result, USA back up, regroup, look for an opportunity. They managed to scare out Shawfall there. They spotted him out, scared him out, so now they can start moving forward again a little bit safer, knowing that the Sombra has to spend some time setting up once more. Okay, we've got a crucial fight coming up. 15 seconds left on the clock. Shawfall with a huge hack on space, but crucially, we're going to see a replay of this later. There was a hack onto Shawfall. Shawfall is dead. USA know they can go in full board. Like, they are anticipating the EMPs perhaps available to them. They know the targets they got to deal with as well. They know they got to get onto that back line, kill some of those squishies, but they get the payload moving around the corner. 3 people on it to get it as far as possible. If they can get the payload around the corner here, finishing this map is extremely difficult. Rally comes out from Sinatra, and then he does something insane to me, which is he just runs at Crimzo, but crucially, he hits Crimzo. He stuns Crimzo. The rest of the damage follows up. Mooma jumps on him. EMP then lands on several people. Crimzo dies with Transcendence in pocket, and as a result, Canada can't do anything to stop the tide of aggression coming out of the US at the moment. It was a crucial drop. It wasn't that Crimzo was hacked. It wasn't that Crimzo was caught by Sombra. He was caught by the Brigitte just running at him, and he didn't react by trancing. It blows my mind, and it's such a small thing, like it's a split-second thing, but he did not react to that in time. Gets stunned, gets killed, and Canada have to take that fight with no Transcendence. As a result, they lose out, and that could be decisive going forward into the next half. There's the replay as well of Shawfall just getting caught out. It's unfortunate for him. Did manage to get a big hack on space, but paid for it with his life. Enabled the USA to be clear, crisp, and decisive. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why, as much as it pains me to say, I think the USA have shown us the best level of play out of everybody so far in the World Cup. They have been so on form. They decide what they're doing very early. They engage very quickly. And I think in current meta, one of the most important things a team can do is have a clear, concise idea of what it is they want to do, how to achieve it, and what ultimates they're going to use to do that. USA seem to engage faster than everybody else, seem to engage faster than Canada, and seem to be more decisive overall, and it's really paying off for them. Now then, we talked about first point last time. We're going to see USA take a very different approach. During this sort of warm-up session, warm-up 10 seconds, Sinatra and Hydration playing the Doomfist and the Fire. Again, favor these closer range environments like this space down here, this first corner. They really want to fight in this area. They want to be able to catch the enemy, pin them in more than anything, and try and shut them down as early as possible. Meanwhile, Canada playing the Sombra Genji combo. Again, 2 very powerful ultimates available to them in the Dragon Blade and in the EMP. So playing around those, trying to set up with those as best they can. They try and scout out Shawfall, they don't manage to find him. Early hack comes through. Not really any support to help him out here, so it's not really going to do too much, but he does build up a huge amount of ultimate charge just because there was a Discord orb there too. But as the payload nears this corner, you're going to see these very tight spaces develop. You can see like payload gets to here, and this space is so so small, so closed in, so hemmed in that now the Pharah really comes alive. The Doomfist can sort of pin people against walls, punch him around, have an easy time landing those big hits where he gets a lot of barrier. It's really, really durable and tanky, and as a result, the US now playing to their strengths. Sinatra, on a huge amount of ultimate charge, decides to take a dip, just a refreshing dip into Venice's, no doubt, very fragrant canals as well. I'm sure Doomfist smells lovely at the moment, but it's still okay for the USA. They have the nano boost available to them, for example, but Canada springing back, they don't have too much. Sureforce about to have an EMP, will probably still have it by next fight. They're going to have a nano boost to try and punch out through this one, but they will be playing into a barrage, so it's going to be crucial for hydration to get set up properly, maybe land this decisively, and get a couple of good kills out of it nice and early. Again, you can see that they're playing around, pinning them in, hemming them in as much as possible, and then just sort of pressure cookering them and killing them in a really, really clean, decisive fashion. Almost gets the kill there with the Doomfist ultimate. It's not too big a loss that Doomfist ultimate didn't get too much. It's not a high impact ultimate, despite being Meteor Strike. It still doesn't do that much. So as a result, USA still probably feeling pretty okay. So that barrage, but Canada going to be coming in with a big war chest. They're going to have an ultimate showdown as they pretty much have all 6 available across the board. The crucial thing here is that, the EMP can be extremely decisive. Unfortunately, kind of unlucky there. Decloaks to get the EMP, ends up getting punched, stunned out of it, loses it. But it doesn't matter because this is the weakness of the USA's support combo, right? They are relying on Moth and Raucous, which, okay, Sleep Dart's pretty good, Valkyrie's pretty good, but it's still not that good when compared to a Nano Blade, which can hunt stuff down. Unless you land that Sleep Dart, you're probably not going to survive it too well. Everyone takes too much damage, gets pushed back all the way to spawn. XQC's going to stall them out just for the remainder of things as well, bouncing back all the way into the spawn doors as best as possible, while the rest of his team ends up completing first. And I know it's easy to meme, by the way. I know it's easy to go, oh, it's XQC, he's just a streamer. Lol. He played pretty well overall. Has a couple of mistakes here and there. I think he's still a very hot-blooded player, is how I'll describe him. Very aggressive, likes to sort of be active on the map doing things, but still had some really good standout moments as well on that tank play. So wasn't too disheartened to see him. I think he performed pretty well overall, and hopefully people will join me in sort of saying, yeah, no, he's actually still pretty good at the old tank role. USA, though, they realized something kind of interesting here. They have a team comp that is, again, very good at sort of engaging when everyone's sort of penned in and closed in, but Canada, their team comp at the moment, especially now with the Doomfist instead of the Genji, doesn't really have a huge amount of ranged options. Like, they have the Ana, they have the Zenyatta, but once you move into this open space, well, sure, that will help you against the Pharah, but it's not going to help you against like a Pharah and a Doomfist and a Winston and a Diva. So USA just taking these early aggressive dives, playing very high intensity around the point, forcing Canada to use ultimates just to get over this first bridge where possible, right? So they've had to use the EMP to get through this. They've had to use the Diva Bomb, I think, as well there. Maybe not the Diva Bomb, but they had to use the EMP, which is a huge factor in these coming fights because not having that EMP in the later fights is going to end up being a little bit costly. Raucous goes down, not an easy kill to make as well. Like, hats off to Sureforce aiming there, because killing Ana is kind of tricky. She's got a really squirrely small hitbox. It's really difficult to do with a Sombra, so it's kind of impressive. I'm impressed. I will say, it's an impressive thing. And then this is just beautiful for Sureforce. Spots out Sinatra, gets the hack on him, that Doomfist super vulnerable. Spacer with impeccable peel just goes straight for it, manages to save his teammate because there's no way the Doomfist is winning that 1v1 after the hack comes through. But because Spacer's been pulled away, there is perhaps a moment here for Canada to play aggressively. But because Sinatra survived this, looking at the kill feed, there's just Doomfists all over the place. Agilities goes into the backline and cuts them out, but USA doing exactly the same thing. Sinatra's actually getting a lot of good results here and a lot of good value. We have a bit of a Doomfist slapfest at the moment. Sinatra gets the better of it, but because Sureforce and XQC are still alive on the point, they will manage to get a little bit more progress, but not before the respawns come from the USA. Of course, that spawn distance having another high impact here on Rialto, so now they can get back in nice and quickly. Nano boosted Baby Diva as well, perhaps just to get that mech back a little bit quicker. Space, of course, a high impact player, was very, very deservedly so commended for his play here on the USA side, and will continue to do so. But Canada has a high impact ultimate of their own. Of course, they have that EMP, managed to catch Moonma, Winston super vulnerable, a huge hack onto space as well, no Diva cycling ults there, gonna get taken down. She's just a big sack of potatoes, super easy for everybody to hit. Canada confirm it with a Diva Bomb, and there we go. The EMP from Sombra, again, proving so decisive in these battles. If the enemy doesn't have an ultimate like the Lucio ultimate, doesn't have the an ultimate like a Transcendence to sort of get off as well, then they're just gonna end up going down and dropping nice and quick. Okay, Canada now pushing towards third. They've got a good 3 minutes to do it as well, so they should be feeling pretty okay. Agility's playing aggressively on the Doomfist at the moment. We generally see Doomfist sort of fade away here on third, though. USA going in nice and aggro. Again, I like seeing this out of the US. They seem to be playing well when they're playing with this level of aggression. Goes in for the Meteor Strike, manages to find Raucus, who tries to corner dodge it, but isn't going to quite be enough. Agility's stuck in the back line at the moment, while the rest of his team sort of stuck on the front. Will try and get some kind of engagement going as well. Muma so low at the moment, but because USA playing nice and close together, well, they will end up healing up and will start the retake, because honestly, it's not until this first corner that things start really mattering. EMP goes in, Diva Bomb goes in, Crimzo manages to get the Transcendence off at the very least, but Canada's offensive has been stalled out. The wind has sort of gone from their sails at the moment, and now Muma has a clear field with a Nano Boost, I do believe. Oh no, he doesn't have it, he just looks very shiny at the moment. He's still got a clear field to just charge in and get a couple of scouts for himself as well, and with no enemy Brigitte on the opposite side as well, Sinatra can help out with that quite nicely. USA can go as aggressive as they like and not really be stunned up and stalled, which is kind of nice for them, right? Because Brigitte is no fun allowed. Speaking of no fun allowed, now there's one on both sides as well. Very, very aggressive play coming out here as well. They even commit the Nano Boost, but Muma just gets slept straight away. High-level professional Annas are really good at doing this, of course, just stopping this up. And this is a huge opportunity for Canada right now. They've got the ultimates to do this. They can start pushing forward. They have the EMP. They have a Nano Boost. They can send in Winston, who's just going in on his own. XQC's just going all the way into the backline. Unfortunately, he goes a little bit too far there. Gets caught up, stunned up, slept, killed, no problem. And now USA, well, they can start pushing things back a little bit. Hydration has an EMP all of his own, and whoever EMPs first probably going to get the results here. USA, again, like I mentioned earlier, so much more decisive, so much more clear and crisp. The moment they had that opportunity, they went, yep, I know what we're going to be doing. They're going to stall out Note as well, just buy some time. And then with a very questionable play, as praising as I was earlier, this is what I mean by XQC being a little bit hot-blooded, jumps in to try and protect Note, who's just suiciding anyway, I guess. Ends up dying with like 50 seconds on the clock. That's a really big deal, because now you're going to have like 30 seconds and your tank's going to be a little bit late. USA have proven time and again they are not afraid of engaging early either. They will absolutely do it. And another thing the USA are doing really well here is you see Sinatra just running around swinging his flail. They've actually managed to scare Shuolfa out. They've actually managed to either catch him or push him out. So the EMP is not in position at the moment. As a result, USA actually engages first. Muma gets onto the backline with that Nano Boost, gets a ton of damage done before EMP goes off. There's the DPS and the supports and everything from Canada are still stuck up. They can't do anything because Muma's just occupying all their attention, and as a result, the aggression that Canada wanted just doesn't manifest. USA end up winning out on the series. And that's the reason why I picked Rialto, because time and again during this series, we saw the USA engaging first, engaging with a clear plan, engaging with a clear idea of what they're doing. And in the current meta, that's so important. It's really now where we're seeing Overwatch develop as a superior team game. You need to know what resources you're using. You need to know exactly what you are going to do. USA look like they know exactly what they want to do, and that's probably, well, take South Korea out of BlizzCon, and if anyone can do it, it's probably going to be them. So chat, well, not chat, I'm sorry, I'm too used to streaming. So comments, I suppose. Do you think they can do it? Do you think the USA could potentially knock Korea out? I think they're in with a chance, definitely more than last year. I'm looking forward to this one. Hopefully you guys are too. I'll see you guys next time. Toodles.